Grapes in mythology and medieval times. Grapes have long been more than just a food source. They've symbolized life, transformation, and divine connection across cultures. In ancient mythology, they were closely tied to gods, rituals, and the mysteries of nature. In Greek mythology, grapes were sacred to Dionysus, the god of wine, fertility, and ecstatic celebration. Dionysus represented not only the physical act of drinking wine, but also the emotional and spiritual liberation it could bring. Grapes, as the source of wine, symbolized transformation, how something simple and natural could become intoxicating and powerful. Festivals in his honor, known as Dionysia, often involved wine, theater, and ritual celebrations that blurred the line between the human and divine. Similarly, in Roman mythology, Dionysus was known as Bacchus, and grapes retained their association with pleasure, abundance, and vitality. Bacchus was often depicted crowned with grapevines, reinforcing the idea that grapes were a gift from the gods meant to be enjoyed, but also respected. Beyond Greece and Rome, grapes appeared in other traditions. In ancient Egypt, grapes and wine were associated with the afterlife and were often included in tomb offerings, symbolizing sustenance for eternity. In biblical traditions, grapes frequently symbolized prosperity and divine blessing. The Promised Land was described as abundant with vineyards, and wine became a central ritual element. In Persian mythology, grapes were linked to the discovery of wine and the idea of renewal and healing. Across these cultures, grapes consistently represented fertility and abundance, transformation, juice to wine, life cycles, divine connection and celebration, mystery and altered states of consciousness. They were not just eaten, they were experienced as something sacred. Symbolism of grapes. Grapes carried layered meanings that evolved over time but remained deeply symbolic. Abundance and prosperity. Clusters of grapes, full and heavy, symbolized wealth and a good harvest. Life and rebirth. The seasonal cycle of vineyards mirrored human life and renewal. Spiritual transformation. Especially in religious contexts, grapes turning into wine represent deeper metaphysical change. Temptation and indulgence. Because of wine's intoxicating effects, grapes also symbolize excess and pleasure. This dual symbolism, both sacred and indulgent, made grapes uniquely powerful in storytelling and art. During the medieval period, grapes became deeply embedded in both practical life and intellectual traditions, especially across Europe. Medieval medicine was heavily influenced by ancient Greek and Roman theories, particularly the concept of balancing bodily humors. Grapes were considered beneficial in maintaining this balance. They were used in various ways. Fresh grapes were believed to cleanse the body and support digestion. Grape juice was used as a mild tonic for the sick and elderly. Raisins, dried grapes, were prescribed for respiratory issues and as a natural energy source. Wine, derived from grapes, was one of the most important medicinal substances. Wine, in particular, played a central role. It was used as a disinfectant for wounds. Mixed with herbs, it became a base for many remedies. It was thought to improve circulation and warm the body. Monasteries were key centers for this knowledge. Monks cultivated vineyards not only for religious purposes, but also to produce medicinal wines and record their healing properties in manuscripts. Grapes were a versatile ingredient in medieval kitchens, used across all social classes, though in different forms. Fresh grapes were eaten in season, often by wealthier households. Raisins were widely used because they stored well and added sweetness to dishes. Verjuice, a sour juice made from unripe grapes, was a common cooking ingredient, used like vinegar or lemon juice today. In cooking, grapes appeared in meat dishes, especially with game, adding sweetness and acidity. Sauces and stews, early desserts and pastries, spiced wine drinks. Because sugar was expensive, grapes and raisins were essential for adding natural sweetness. Grapes, and especially wine, held immense importance in medieval Christianity. Wine was central to the Eucharist, symbolizing the blood of Christ. Vineyards were often owned and maintained by monasteries and churches. The cultivation of grapes became both a spiritual and economic activity. This religious connection reinforced the idea of grapes as a bridge between the earthly and the divine, echoing their earlier mythological significance. A legacy. From ancient myths to medieval monasteries, grapes have consistently occupied a unique space between nature, culture, and spirituality. They were sacred offerings to gods, symbols of transformation and abundance, essential tools in medicine, staple ingredients in everyday cooking. What makes grapes especially fascinating is how their meaning evolved without ever losing its core essence. Whether in a myth about divine ecstasy or a medieval remedy for illness, grapes have always represented the idea that something simple can become something profound. And in many ways, that symbolism still lingers today, every time we see a vineyard, share a meal, or raise a glass.
Appreciate you watching. Catch you in the next video. Bye for now. Michael Luxey.